Good morning, everybody, and welcome to What's New in Wagtail 4, and welcome back to quite a few of you as well, because people are returning as well to the series, which is fantastic news. So I'm Lisa, and I head up our events at Torchbox, and we have got a bumper-packed edition for you today. We are going to be sharing with you some of the work that we've been doing on the roadmap, or the vision for Wagtail for the next 2 years. We're also going to be doing live demos of some of the awesome Google Summer of Code projects, and we'll be sharing some new features and some future functionality as well. And we have some special guests as well joining us today. We have got Tidian, who is a student at the University of Lille in France. So he's going to be sharing Wagtail Live, which is his Google Summer of Code project. We also have Coen, who's a developer and consultant at 4Digits in the Netherlands, as Tom just said. And he's also a Wagtail core team member, and he's going to be sharing the simple translations feature that they have sponsored. And then also from Torchbox, we have Lauren, who is a project manager or delivery manager. We have Phil Dexter, who is a product director, Carl Hobley, who is a developer and Wagtail core team member, Ollie, our creative director and co-founder, and of course Tom Dyson, who's Wagtail lead and Torchbox co-founder. So we've got 60 minutes today. After each section, we're going to have time for 1 to 2 questions, and then we've got about 10 minutes at the end as well. Please try and use the Q&A feature, which you should be able to see at the bottom of your screen for questions. It just makes it easier for us to try and keep on top of what we've answered or not answered. If we don't manage to get through all of the questions, then we're more than happy to carry on discussions after the webinar as well. As I said earlier, this is a webinar, so you can see us, but we can't see you. And I am recording it so that I can share it with you all after. So there'll be a follow-up email with any of the links that we've spoken about and any extra information as well. And I think that's about it. So I am going to hand over to Ollie now to share the vision with you.
Hi, everybody. It's lovely to have you all here. So I'm going to talk about the vision. We've drafted a vision for Wagtail with input from core team members and Torchbox core team members. Still a work in progress, a draft, but it's ready to share. So I think Steve Jobs said that if you're working on something exciting that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you. And that's what this is about, really. A vision will help us to stay focused and not get distracted building things on Wagtail that aren't part of that vision. It'll help us to be driven and single-minded about reaching the vision, so we'll get more done as a project than we would have done otherwise. We thought it's important to lay this down to give us some clarity. And we've chosen to do this on a 2-year time scale to try and ensure that this is something that we can kind of focus on and realize reasonably easily. There's nothing out of this world. There's no integration with VR headsets, just a set of tasks that's ambitious but achievable. As I said, it's a draft. We're missing a pillar about community in the open source project, I think, at the moment, but it's something that I can share with you now. How we did this, we looked at ways people have done vision kind of formats for doing a vision before. We ended up sort of rolling our own a bit. We've kind of broken the vision down into 5 pillars, and each pillar we just simply express as a title and a description. But there's also a little cartoon strip for each vision pillar that helps to sort of bring it to life a bit and add a bit of color to it. And we chose a cartoon strip because it feels lighthearted. So we didn't want to say that the pillar is going to include this feature, this feature, and this feature, because we haven't quite determined that. The cartoon gives a sense of what the pillars might involve, but only a sense of it. And once we've got this finalized, we can agree the tasks needed to come out of it to deliver on the vision, prioritize those tasks, and make and release a new roadmap. So here goes. I'm going to run you through what we've got. Okay, so these are the 5 pillars that we've got here in the 2-year vision, and I'll take them in turn. So the first one is the first 30 minutes of Wagtail. So we want the initial experience with Wagtail to be the best it can be. So it's going to be a fantastic demo experience, a smooth setup process, easy onboarding, and great documentation. You might not be able to read this, but I'll read it out for you to make it easy. And you can see this is the cartoon strip that I was talking about. So in this first one, Lars is looking for a new CMS to use for his agency clients. Wagtail has great reviews, so he visits wagtail.io and jumps straight into the online demo. The onboarding is so slick that within minutes, he's straight into the editor experience road testing Streamfield. He one-click installs Wagtail and follows the development tutorial. He's blown away by the developer experience and how simple it is to build pages and models. And the default front-end templates give him the end-to-end experience. 30 minutes later, he's convinced that Wagtail offers his clients a great editing experience and his developers a fast way to build high-quality sites. And the icing on the cake for Lars is the availability of sales material for him, not only to convince his team, but also to help him in pitches. The second pillar, editors get your best work done. Instantly feel at home to unleash your creativity and create your best content. Let Wagtail help you optimize the content for success and keep you up to date on content performance. Our writer logs into Wagtail for the first time. It's a great onboarding experience. Creating a page is so smooth. The interface feels like less like a web form and more like an app. It feels totally natural. As she gains experience, she realizes how well thought out Wagtail is for both simple short pages and long complex pages. You can see in this illustration here, kind of editing alongside a preview. Wagtail helps her with quality, from checking her writing against legibility criteria and brand guidelines, to SEO, to simulating previews on mobile and tablet. And when she submits a page for review, she likes how she always knows where it is in the workflow. The third pillar is called sophistication without compromising simplicity. Wagtail reveals the power of its features as you need them, making it easy for simple sites and a powerhouse for the most complex. Shri rebuilt her film club website on Wagtail. It was a breeze with the starter pack. Now others put the film reviews in. It's easy. They didn't even need training. In the docs, Shri read about Wagtail's powerful feature set, features the film club website might never need, but features that would make her day job easier. So Shri took Wagtail to her boss. She works in a government department where the CMS is slow and frustrating. The team prototyped and tested Wagtail for scale, speed, and features, including the custom workflow and translations. The dev team love it, and the managing editor can't get enough of the edit tools and dashboard. It's an easy swap-in for their current system. The fourth one is Wagtail as a platform. And in this one, it's not a single sort of story in the cartoons. It's more a series of vignettes, kind of individual reflections. So Wagtail as a platform. We're obsessed with making Wagtail easy to build, maintain, and customize. Speed of development is crucial for our community. I love how flexible and reusable content is in Wagtail. I can enable powerful features like workflow or revisions just with a few lines of code. The admin API gives me certainty about the right way to automate basic actions like publishing a page. The risk that a new upgrade will break my customizations has vanished. Following the docs, it only took me 1 hour to integrate page notifications with our company's Slack. Customizing the admin interface from defined components is so simple now. It gives me the confidence to customize to our needs, confident my changes will be supported going forwards. I've rebuilt Wagtail Media in 10 lines of code, no template code in there at all. We're able to build complex features, core features, twice as fast as we could back in 2020. And finally, we have one called multi-channel experiences. Wagtail is 100% API enabled to give you ultimate flexibility when it comes to managing content across all of your channels. Sam reviews bikes on his website, on Amazon, Alexa, and on Bike Zone. He's just finished testing the Shand Stota and is ready to do his review. He logs into Wagtail and creates a new review. He starts with the core content, stuff like the title that is shared across all platforms. Next comes the platform-specific content. The long-form content for his website and Bike Zone, the shorter Alexa skills briefing, and the video and audio versions too. Finally, he checks the metadata for the Bike Zone API and he publishes to all channels at once. Creating and editing content is so much simpler now, it's all in one place. More time to go out riding. So that's it for the vision. I hope that's been useful and interesting. That's where we've got to. We'd love to get feedback or try to answer questions, but I hope that's given a nice perspective on what our ambitions are for the next couple of years. Tom.
Thanks very much, Ollie. We do have a question from who's it? James, who's just asking, is the vision public and can I share it with my team?
The vision will be public very shortly, James. By the end of, when Lisa shares the kind of follow-up email for this session, we'll have a link in it to a blog where we'll post this draft vision up on wagtail.io.
Great. Thanks, Ollie. If there are any other questions about the vision and you haven't had time to think of them now, then please continue to ask and we'll respond in the Q&A. But for now, we're going to move on, and I'm really pleased to tell you about Wagtail's participation in the Google Summer of Code. So this is an annual event some of you may have heard of. It's been running for 16 years now. It's a global program from Google focused on bringing student developers into open source software development. And the way it works is that students apply to work with an organization. So it has to be the project has to be funded by an organization, and the organization makes specific projects available to work on. Students apply to do that, and they put forward a proposal. And it's typically a 10-week programming project that is designed to happen during their break from school or university. And Google funds it. They fund the kind of organization of it, and they also pay a stipend to the students. This year, we decided to collaborate with the Django project. So we went under the kind of the larger umbrella of Django, which is great because Django is a project that carries a lot of weight, and it was really good for Wagtail and Django to be able to collaborate in this way. We put forward, as part of that umbrella, where we put forward 3 projects, and we had 3 fantastic submissions from students. 2 of those were accepted, and it wasn't that like 2 were accepted and 1 was denied. It was just that Google granted us 2 projects, but we found it too hard to decide which of the 3 we would drop. So we've decided to fund them all. So Torchbox is funding the 3rd of the 3, and we're really pleased to have all of 3 of these fantastic projects. We are really lucky to have Tidiane here today, who's in a minute is going to tell us about the project he's been working on. He's been mentored by Coen van der Kamp, who's also on the call today. Tidiane's working on Wagtail Live, which you'll see in a minute. We also have Shohan, a student in India, who's been working on bulk actions. This is one of the probably the longest issues, the oldest issues in the Wagtail repository. And I think it's a really interesting example of a project which is perfect for Google Summer of Code, because it's too big really for a single issue for someone to just pick up and work on, as a kind of one-off project. And it's the kind of thing that really helps from having a mentor and having 10 weeks of focused time to work on it. And Shohan's made some really great progress on this. And finally, we have Aldan, a student from Spain, who I've just seen has joined us and the attendees. So it's great to see you here today, Aldan. Aldan's working on the database search backend. So this is another important feature. Wagtail, as you may know, has this concept of search backend, so you can plug in different search indexing tools. So a kind of common example particularly for kind of high volume sites is Elasticsearch. But for people who don't want to add the extra infrastructure of Elasticsearch, Wagtail also supports simple database searching. But the database searching doesn't take advantage of all the full text features that are increasingly being added to the popular open source databases, in particular SQLite and Postgres. And Aldan's work is to make sure that we take advantage of those features, which can be a really good developer experience and end user experience advantage in the end. It means that that you, without adding any extra infrastructure, you can get really high quality search with what's just comes built in with Wagtail. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Tidiane, who's going to give you a demo of Wagtail Live.
Hello, everybody. I am Tidiane. I come from Senegal, and I'm currently studying in Lille, in France. And yes, I have been chosen to do the Wagtail Live project with GSOC. I've been happy to have been chosen. And I'm also happy to show you what we have achieved so far. So I will first explain what is the goal of the project, and then I will show how it works, a little overview of how it works. And lastly, I will show a demo. So I will share my screen right now. Yes. So what is a live blog? A live blog is what is the goal of the project? The goal of the project is to allow quick content publishing for blogs for sites powered by Wagtail Live. This is also known as live blog. Here we have an example of a live blog from The Guardian. I don't know if I spell it right, but here we can see that they give us relevant information all about the world. And if, for example, here we have, yes, we have here some information about Russia having records of coronaviruses. So we have here also another example of a live blog from CNN, which was on the latest election. So we see a pattern on these live blogs. They all have, the posts are not very long. They just want to share a specific message. Here we have a live blog which fits more in the current context. It is a live blog from BBC, and here it was a live blog during the final for Italy-England. So my England mates, I'm sorry for you. If there are any Italians, I'm happy for you too. So here we can see that anytime. So for example, here we have a missed penalty. So I imagine that there is a reporter somewhere who publishes something and it comes here. We see that, yes, the goal is reporting live. And the difference between a live blog and a normal blog is that with a live blog, we don't need to refresh. If a reporter publishes, as soon as a reporter publishes, we will see it here in our screen. So now I will try to explain a little bit how Wagtail Live works, because we have seen that all these live blogs, we imagine a reporter being on the field and reporting an event. Maybe it will be more convenient for him to use maybe his mobile phone, one of messaging apps, instead of using the Wagtail admin. So for that, this is how an image that shows how Wagtail Live works. So here we imagine there is a reporter who will publish message in Slack or Telegram or whatever platform they use in the company. And here there is maybe a fans who want to know whatever happened in the match, is their goal or whatever. So how Wagtail Live works is that we have receiver class here, the receiver class. So maybe for the demo, I will use the Slack Events API receiver. What is it? The Slack receiver, it is a receiver. It knows how Slack format messages. So when we receive a message from Slack, it knows this is a video, or this is a text, or this is an image. So then he handles how to save it, and the message is saved. And on the other part here, we have our publisher classes, and the goal of the publisher is to always, they see if a message has been added, edited, or deleted, and if it's the case, they take it and display it on the user browser. So I will just show now a quick demo. Yes. So here we have our live blog page, and here we have our Slack channel. So here we can see that this is the ID of this channel, of this particular channel. Here, if you go on our live blog page, we can see that, yes, it's this channel ID. So the goal is that we will post message here in this channel, and we expect that they will come here in our live blog. So I have some posts already ready here. Yes, so we send it here, and yes, it appears on our, and we'll send another post. Yes, so the receivers know how to format. So if there is a link, or if there is a YouTube video, they already know how they should format it. So for example, here we see that it is a link. If we click it, it redirects us to the right link, and a YouTube video also is embedded. So Last post, I will include an image for this post. Yes, here is it. So yes, this is the idea. So maybe I can maybe edit this one because we are no longer started. We are live now. It's not starting in 1 hour. It's live now, and I'm going to save this change. Yes, it's live now. So I can also maybe I can delete the first message. So we see if it's the first message is here. I can delete it. Yes, I deleted the first message. Yes, I will also delete this message. The hello from Wagtail Live. Yes, it's gone. So also you can also manage the content inside the Wagtail admin. So here all these posts here, they are saved on our page like stream field. So yes, and you can also, for example, there is this fancy feature show that so you can show or not a blog, a post. So yes, if we click show, it's unshown. So we can reshow it. So it's here too. We can, if we edit, for example, this post and the image, yes, and the message will change. Yes, the image is no longer here. We only have the titles. So yes, I think that was it. If you guys have questions, so I just want to say that I have great mentors, which are Coen, who will be talking right after, but also Tom and Lucas and Storm, who have been very helpful. So if you have any question, let me know, and I will share the GitHub page so that you can follow and you can start to see how it's going. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tidiane. That's such a great demo. You could stop sharing your screen now because I'm disconcertingly seeing my own face. Thank you. Right. We've got some nice, some response. We have Agnieszka, who's, this isn't a question, but she's saying we're definitely going to be using this. So that's good to hear, Agnieszka. We also have Chris Wedgwood, who says, nice work. And how easy is it to set up receivers and publishers? Can you give an indication of that?
Yes, it is to set up a Slack receiver. You just have to, you need to create an app in Slack that you will use, and after that you just need to say that the receiver you want to use is Slack Events API receiver, and you are good to go. For the publishing part too, you only, for example, currently we only support interval polling and long polling for the publishing technique, but we also aim to support WebSockets. And if you want to use, for example, interval polling, the setup, an overview, you just have to say in your settings, my settings, Wagtail Live publisher is long polling publisher. Maybe you can also set an option, Wagtail Live timeout, which sets the timeout duration for your polling. And in your template, you include the template of Wagtail Live. And really, it's not that hard to set up.
Thanks. There's lots of questions coming in, so we may not have time to ask them all. But Oleg, who I know is a very strong open source proponent, is asking, have you tested with other chat servers like Mattermost or Matrix?
I have tested it with Telegram. I don't know, but it works with Telegram. So yes, the goal is currently to support Telegram and Slack, but yes, maybe. Yes.
Yeah, and the architecture is so that, so these are pluggable so that anybody should be able to add new receivers.
Yes, that's the idea.
We have Agnieszka asking a question, what are the inherent restrictions a number of posts a single publication can consist of, for example? I don't think there's any extra restrictions here, beyond what's already in Wagtail. So the only limits really to the number of posts in a publication would be about how you design your front end, I think, and making sure that you're not loading too much to start off with. But I don't think there are any specific restrictions around volume. We have Sean Craig asking, how will this behave on a page behind a CDN, for example, a live coronavirus updates? And I think the answer here is that you could either change your TTL, the time to live, in the CDN for live blog pages, or it depends on the mechanism that we're using for the publisher, whether we use long polling or in the future WebSockets, for example, which is probably going to be the most scalable way, and that might make the CDN question pretty simple. There's a few other questions coming in, but I think we're going to have to move on just because we're out of time, but we'll continue to answer them in the Q&A. Thank you very much, Tidjane, for that demo.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to move on to Ollie, who's talking about the second of the Google Summer of Code projects.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Tough act to follow that, Tidjane, but I'll do my best. So yeah, and I'm excited to update you about the progress we're making with bulk actions, for which we have to thank the contribution of Shohan Dattaroy, who's again part of this program. So you'll kind of know what page listings look like in Wagtail. This is the Torchbox intranet actually. And there's a few issues around that. It's they're very spacious. You don't get a lot of pages listed in the space for each, for the amount of space there is. We don't cover a lot of stuff. There's a limited opportunity for filtering, and there's no searching within a listing. And also another thing that's a bit rubbish is that this, rubbish could be improved on, would be a better thing to say, is that this sort order here is quite hidden. So you can sort pages for the front end listing if you're using this in your templates. And I'll wager that most of you who use Wagtail probably never actually noticed this feature, but so it's a little bit hidden. So that's another thing that we can improve. And these are things that we've tried to tackle as we've tackled the bulk actions work. So I'm going to demonstrate what we've done and what Shohan's working on. I'm going to demonstrate it in this Figma prototype though that Ben has mocked up, the lead Wagtail designer. So I'm going to whiz through. Okay, so firstly, and obviously, you've got a much more compact listing than you have previously. So you can get a lot more listings onto the page here. And this has involved us hiding some of the menu items into this menu button here, the ones you'd use less frequently. So that works nicely. We've also improved the filtering on the column headers, which is great. And we've got this search here for searching within listings, searching and filtering together within listings, which is really nice. The other important thing, though, with respect to bulk actions that you can do is you get this checkbox appearing, which is one of the reasons that we've moved the sort order. This checkbox on the left appearing where you can select an item and then you can apply actions to it. So obviously you can select multiple actions, multiple items, or you can select all of the items and you get this action bar. When we started designing this, actually, we had it a little bit like Gmail, where I don't know if anybody uses that, but you get bulk actions at the top next to the place where you select all the pages. But in Wagtail, we've decided that it's better to try and be consistent with the place that we put our action buttons. So obviously this is reminiscent of what you get on an edit page where you publish and save as draft on a page. And it makes sense to have the actions represented in the same way. So that's bulk actions on the page listing. I think the last thing to show you here is that we've moved I have to unselect that in this Figma mock-up. We've moved sort menu order up into this button here. We won't have the icon in the end actually, but that's going to be up here because it's applying a sort order to the child items of this page here. Okay, so that's the the features you'll get on bulk actions for pages, but as well as bulk actions for pages, Shohan's going to be introducing bulk actions for images, documents, and snippets, which is really exciting. So I know this has been long awaited, and a lot of people will be very excited to see this arriving. We hope to have all of it, or most of it at least, released in Wagtail 2.15.
Thank you, Ollie. Any questions? There's no questions, just Tim saying great addition, and then Christoph saying bulk actions on images is like Christmas came early. This is a very nice feedback. Thank you very much, everyone, for positive comments. I would just like, before I move on to the next thing, just want to thank all the mentors. So it's quite a bit of work mentoring these projects, and there's a lot of people have been involved. But I'd particularly like to thank Coen on Wagtail Live, Carl, who's been mentoring Aldan on search backends, and Dan Braggis, our colleague at Torchbox, who's been helping Shohan with bulk actions, as well as all the other mentors. And next up, we have Coen, who's going to be talking to us about simple translations.
Thank you, Tom. Let me share my screen. Make this a little bit smaller. Yes. Hello. My name is Koen and I work at 4Digits. I wrote simple translation for Wagtail. And in the past, Wagtail didn't have multi-language support, but you could create a multi-language website by adding a third-party package like Wagtail Trans or Wagtail Model Translation, and maybe some others. But for these packages to work, they had to dive deep into Wagtail and fiddle with Wagtail internals, and that was a bit messy. So the Wagtail core team wanted to add multi-language support to Wagtail itself. The goal was to make it easier for translation packages to integrate with Wagtail. And now you can. Wagtail does have a locale object and it stores the language, and a page can be linked to the specific language. Also, pages have reference to their translated counterparts, and the Wagtail admin displays the language of the page, of the current page, and also has buttons to switch between translations. There are also some changes in the code, and that's like the code interface that you can interact with pages. You can copy them to a certain translation or ask from a page, like give me all the translated pages. And last but not least, documentation is added, so you know how to work with all this. So with all this work done, Wagtail officially supports multi-language sites, and that's a big achievement. So what do you need to set up a Wagtail multi-language site? And this example is with simple translation. You see it in installed apps, and that just enables the translation interface that you can copy a page to another locale. It doesn't do the actual translation. I will show you in a demonstration later on. And you need to act the Wagtail locales, which is the language object. And then there are a couple of other settings that enable the internationalization support. And these last ones with language code and language content are the languages that you can select in the Wagtail admin interface. We did define this in the settings so that the developer can decide which languages are supported, but you can actually make this list as long as possible. You can add any language in the world to this list, and then your site will support that language. So for now, I only have English, French, and Spanish. I will do a quick demonstration. I will create a language and translate a page and show the changes in the admin interface. So here we have Wagtail with a home page in English. And here we have settings with the locale, the objects that store the languages. And you can add a locale. And now, well, English is already added, so that's not in the options anymore, but you can add French, and we can add Spanish. So with this done, this site now officially supports these languages. And the next thing to do is to translate the homepage into a language. So here's the translate button. It's added by Wagtail Simple Translation, and it gives this view that you can select all languages or only a specific language. And you can say if you want to include the subtree, the child pages of the home page, to be copied as well. Let's do this. And now you see that there are two home pages, and it's also here. We've got an English one and a French one, and the French one is in draft. So let's edit this. And that will become that. And publish. So we now published our French page and an English page. And it also has a child page. It's still in draft. It still needs to be translated. You also see here now a select that you can switch between the languages. And And that's also now available on the page itself. Here we've got English, and you can also switch to the French page. Yeah, that's correct. So there are Wagtails now as internationalization support, and you can write packages to do the translation workflow. I showed simple translations, but there are also other packages. And which package is the one you should use? Well, Contrib Simple Translation, it comes with Wagtail. It has very basic functionality. When you want to translate, you have to supply the translation yourself, but it's easy to use and set up. You could also use Wagtail Localize. It's an additional install, but it has more advanced features. You can use machine translation so that the content is automatically translated for you. It also can export and import the site contents as a whole. So you can do the translation elsewhere, and it has a couple of other advanced features. So if you're into multi-language websites, you should check out this package. And the third one that I wanted to mention is Wagtail XLIFF translation. It's also an additional install, and it exports the content of the website to XLIFF. And XLIFF is a format, an XML format, used by professional translators and work with their professional translation software. We created this for a client of ours to, they wanted to supply their website in one initial language, and then let all the translation be done by a professional translation agency. So that's a nice package too. And last, you could also just hook into Wagtail and use the internationalization features. If you want to do that, Wagtail makes it possible, and take a look at simple translation, because that's the most basic package and the easiest to understand code to see what happens and build upon. And to wrap it up, I'd like to point out that our documentation on internationalization is the starting point to create multi-language Wagtail websites, and this documentation should get you started. I'll show it here. It's very thorough. Carl wrote this for the main part, and it's an excellent thing to get you started. Yeah, this was my talk about Wagtail Simple Translation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Coen. It's really great, this feature. Those of you who've been to the last Wagtail webinar, and if you haven't, then you can see a recording of it, might remember Carl's demo of Wagtail Localize, which is a very fully featured package that includes machine translation and other features that Coen mentioned. But we recognize that not everyone needs that sophistication, and to have this simple translation module now in Wagtail is a great benefit, I think, and we're really grateful to Coen's work on this. I have some claps coming in, and excellent work, Coen, from Chris Wedgwood. Also a question from Jane, who asks, is the simple translations to be used instead of XLIFF translation, or can it be used in combination?
You can use it in combination. Any of these packages you can switch out. So you can start off with simple translation and later decide to use Wagtail Localize. And some of these depends a bit on how they use the Wagtail interface, but I think you can use the most of them in parallel.
Got it, great. And Christoph asks, is simple translation compatible with Wagtail Localize to swap in later on?
I think I answered that.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Cool. And Oleg apologizes for mentioning the M word, but asks if you have any thoughts on migrating hundreds of pages, I guess hundreds of translated pages.
I don't think I get the question.
Yeah,
to migrate from older Wagtail trans, maybe? Or?
Well, I think we'll probably have to move on, but Oleg, please just add a bit more context to your question, and we'll answer it in the Q&A. Yeah. Thank you very much, Coen, and thanks for the questions. Next up, we have Lauren, who's going to tell us about some of the smaller changes that are in and that are coming into Wagtail.
Great, thank you, Tom. So yeah, I am going to start by showing you some of the fantastic changes that we saw as part of the Wagtail 2.13 release. Some of them will have been more obvious to you than others, but it would be a good chance to see some if you haven't already. So I'll just present here. So I'm going to start by showing you some of the updates that we've made to the page edit screen, and that will be using the Wagtail Bakery demo. So I'm sure a lot of you will have already seen and tried out the commenting feature that I can see here, but this is my favorite feature so far. So it just gives you an opportunity to add your critique into the admin interface, and it just makes Wagtail an easier place to see exactly where that critique is. So you will notice as well throughout your stream fields, the icon is present so that you can put critique into each stream field as well individually. So then I'm going to talk about some changes that we made to the promote tab. So we thought that this was an opportunity to make the purpose of each field a lot clearer for users. So one big change that you'll see is that we now have separate sections there for search engines and for site menus. And this is just to really make clear where your data needs to go. And so another change you'll notice is that we've changed the names of some of the fields. So we've gone from using page title on the older version to now using title tag on the newer version, and that was for SEO purposes. You'll also notice that we've updated the descriptions there, and that is just to aid with the clarification as well. So a slightly smaller change, which you might not have seen, is that we have added a layer to the breadcrumbs. So this was sponsored by Wharton Research Data Services. And previously, you can see that if you wanted to get back to the listing view of the page that you were currently editing, there was no quick and easy way to do that, and you had to navigate your way back through the menu. But now, as you can see, there is a new layer, and you can get back to that listing view in just one quick and easy click. So that is a really great time-saving one if you haven't tried that or seen that already. So it's like another change that I'm going to talk to you about is improvements that we've made here to the account settings user interface. So on the previous version that you can see on the left, you would have to go into each tab, edit the information, save that, and then repeat. So we did feel like this UX experience was somewhat outdated and a bit old. And so now you can see that in the 2.13 release, we've done this as a form page. So you can just go in really quickly and easily and update that in one fell swoop. So as well as this, as that to note that Wagtail 2.13 also supports Django 3.2. So now I'm just going to talk you through some things that we're currently working on and hoping to introduce to core later on this year. So we do already have audit logging, but we're looking to extend the use of this and put it into snippets and into model admin. So this is being sponsored by the Motley Fool, and it'll be really great for further pinpointing and tracking any changes that are made onto your Wagtail site. Another thing that we're looking at changing is to the left-hand menu. So that will be looking at things like the order of the pages, just to make that more logical and user-friendly. And then some further changes that I'm now going to pass to Carl to talk more about.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so we've been rewriting the left-hand menu recently. This is mainly to introduce some usability improvements, but also some architectural changes, such as rewriting it in React to make it more performant and maintainable in the future. So I'm going to quickly share my screen and demo some of the usability changes. So as you can see on the left-hand side, we've now got a new icon at the top left, and this is to allow the editor to collapse the menu. So as you can see, it's now gone all thin, and it's provided extra screen space for the page editor to allow them to sort of focus on what they're writing and not get too distracted by the cluttered menu. Other improvements include improved mobile phone support. So obviously we can now just stick this on the side always instead of hiding it away. And right to left support. So Arabic, for example, you have to adjust your layout so everything flows from the right hand side to the left instead of the left to the right. And also, my mind's gone blank, sorry. Yeah, so this is coming in Wagtail 2.14. So as a optional feature, so it's behind a feature flag. So in Wagtail 2.14, you can enable the new menu by adding this to your settings. Hopefully, we plan to make this on by default by 2.15. That's it.
Thank you, Carl. I think this is the first time we've used this feature flag approach for new features, unless you can think of another one, Carl. But
yes,
I think it's a good way for introducing quite important changes like this gradually. Thank you. I think we're going to move straight on now to my colleague Dex, who is going to talk about sponsorship.
Thanks, Tom. Hello, everybody. Thanks for everyone who's spoken so far. It's been an excellent session so far. I wanted to talk a bit about the Wagtail ecosystem and share for a lot of people who probably don't focus on Wagtail, the back end of Wagtail and how things are developed quite as much as we do, and just explain and show a bit about how we continue to make such kind of strong progress. I think we're constantly saying that the new releases of Wagtail are the biggest and best there are. And there's a reason for that. So if this box kind of represents sort of Wagtail core, which is what you get when you just kind of install Wagtail out of the box, we also have packages, right, which are things that you can install into Wagtail to have new features and functionality and capabilities. And those have been around for a long time, but I'm just going to show kind of a snippet of some of those things recently that happened and why we've been kind of increasing the speed of this. So about 2 or 3 years ago, actually, Google sponsored a package called Wagtail Internationalization. And we worked with them on that. It was a reasonably small piece of work, but it managed to kind of achieve what they wanted for Wagtail. And that was actually the start of what is now Wagtail Localize. And the UK kind of central government department, the Department for International Trade, a couple of years ago, sponsored more work on that. And we changed the name to Wagtail Localize, and because it was doing more capabilities. And that was this kind of, the starting point of where Wagtail Localize is now. At around the same sort of time, the Motley Fool came to Torchbox and said, look, we'd like some more capabilities in Wagtail. We love it, but there's some things we need, including workflow. So we developed workflow with them, and that went into Wagtail Core, which is now the kind of custom workflow that you can all see and use within Wagtail. But also Wagtail Airtable, which is a way to manage your content, your Wagtail pages and content through Airtable. So it syncs up with Airtable. If you haven't seen it and you think that sounds interesting, I would definitely recommend checking it out, because we found lots of people who really like it. Mozilla also then, I think this was last year, sponsored much more work on Wagtail Localize, and we've made it really great working with Teo, who I know is on the call today, and the team at Mozilla to kind of improve the capabilities of Wagtail Localize and make it kind of the sort of enterprise class solution it is now. And actually, Mozilla did benefit themselves, though, because Wharton Interactive created a package called Wagtail Footnotes, which allows you to have structured footnotes within your pages. It's a reasonably small package, but Mozilla benefited from that and now use that on their kind of long form pages. 4 digits, as you saw Coen talk about, then kind of took Wagtail Localize and said, actually, we can use bits of this and make something that works for the simpler things, which don't need all the kind of the power. So that's really nice. In the most recent Wagtail, we've seen commenting, we've seen the breadcrumb change, we've seen Telepath come in. So all of these organizations have been kind of sponsoring and funding and working with us in terms of making these changes and improving Wagtail. And even more recently, sort of Wagtail Airtable, Mozilla have improved it. Motley Fool have benefited from that. We've had Youth Sports Trust. Mozilla have paid for Wagtail A/B testing, which allows us to do A/B testing within the Wagtail admin interface. And this is just kind of a snippet of kind of all the packages out there. There are far more, which I'm sure lots of you know about already. But it's kind of an interesting thing to see kind of how we've kind of managed to speed up this work, and how working with organizations has really made Wagtail, improve at great velocity in the last couple of years. And snippet history, as we've seen, is coming in soon, which Lauren mentioned. Again, that's Motley Fool who are paying for that. And a couple of things that we'd like to be seeing soon are things like autosave and live preview. And so, one of the things that I wanted to mention is it's possible for you to become a sponsor, your organization. It's not kind of a long-term cost. There's a one-off sponsorship to help us to build these things into Wagtail. You'll be named in the release notes and on Wagtail.io, and obviously you'll benefit from those new features. So obviously, do aim to sponsor things which would help your organization, but really help push Wagtail forwards for everyone. And all these things that you've benefited from in the past, which lots of organizations and lots of the core team have been working on, hopefully you may be able to give something back as well. So the other thing is we're looking to be putting opportunities for sponsorship on Wagtail.io soon, which will be very much driven by our vision and helping us to achieve that. But if you have thoughts and ideas about how you can help us to achieve the vision too, which are aligned with your organization, then please do contact myself or anyone else who is on this webinar at all. Probably the Slack, the Wagtail Slack is a good place for that. Or if you visit wagtail.io or torchbox.com, then you'll be able to find some email addresses there. Tom, I'm going to hand back to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Phil. And just to kind of back that up, I'd like to thank, because I've seen some familiar names in the attendee list, and I know there are people here from Mozilla and the NHS and YouGov and others who have really made important contributions to Wagtail by sponsoring the features that help their organizations and then go on to help organizations around the world who are using this tool. So thank you very much to all of you. I think, though, that is it for us. Lisa will share any all the links of the things we've talked about and some of the answers to the questions and anything else that comes in the next few minutes. So probably sometime after this second session, which is on Thursday, at a later time for people on later time zones, we will put the video together and share that out with you all. But otherwise, just like to thank everyone, all my co-panelists for further excellent presentations and demos, and to all of you for joining. That's it from us. Thank you very much, everybody.